What will be decided on Wednesday, right here on One Soccer. Join us 9:30 p.m. ET. It is the Canadian Championship final. We have finally made it to the final, and it is all MLS matchup between the Vancouver Whitecaps and Toronto FC. Vancouver obviously looking good in MLS action. Toronto FC, they have been struggling. They're clinging on to that 8th spot right now. Now, if you were sitting at that, board of MLSC board of directors table, and John Herdman's there as well, and you're looking at your season as a whole here, Wheels, what would you say to yourself? If you're Herdman, if you're MLSC, would you say that what's more important is an MLS playoff berth or winning the Canadian Championship?
First of all, I'd say let's get One Soccer on our cable packages. That would be the first thing that I would suggest at that point. After that, I would say there's some big decisions to be made that don't all revolve around the manager, John Herdman, at present time. I think that just Toronto FC, philosophically speaking, as well from a business perspective, that those changes are going on as we speak, need to decide where they want to take this thing. What's going to be the next identity of Toronto FC? It was clear what the direction that Bill Manning wanted to take it when he was in charge. He wanted to have like big name designated players that were surrounded by potentially Canadian national team players or players on that level to create this team and try to galvanize interest and buzz and winning ahead of 2026. Now there's an opportunity to go in whatever direction that they want. So if I'm anyone at that club, I wouldn't feel really secure in where I sit, because there's going to be decisions that are made from above that, may or may not include all individuals involved. So the people that are working there right now, they're all professional. They're all dedicated. And they're going to see this project forward. And I just think that Wednesday is critical to making their case that the club is moving in the right direction. And for the club to move in the right direction, two things need to happen. It's table stakes when it comes to Toronto FC. It's not like the Leafs or the Raptors or other Toronto teams where it's like, oh, we're going to tank and get a really good draft pick and then go on a rebuild. That's not how TFC work. Every year they expect to make the playoffs and they expect to go on and win the Canadian Championship. And they haven't won the Canadian Championship in a normal year. Like they won 2020, but that was just a one-off game since 2018 now. They've been surpassed by their Canadian opponents. And here, an opportunity to win a trophy. I think that there's immense pressure on everyone involved with Toronto FC right now.
Yeah, and once again, CONCACAF Champions Cup. You win the Voyageurs Cup. That is a competition you get to go into as well, which we know can make the organization a lot of money. And this has been just a polarizing player. Obviously, Lorenzo Insigne, all the fans know it. Talking about big salary, hasn't really been healthy. I mean, in 52 games that he's played for TFC, Jordo, 14 goals. That's not why you're making $16 million, right? Like, let's just call a spade a spade. And it's to the point now, and I have to ask this question. Is TFC better or worse with Insigne in the lineup on Wednesday?
I would say worse. I wouldn't start him. There's not a world where I'm starting him if I'm John Herdman. I think also too, maybe he's a guy that comes on and you try to gamble on the last little bit if he's healthy or up for it. But that's another question. You're paying 16 mil for this guy, and the question is if he's ready. I know health hits different players at different times, but if he's up for it, that's the phrase where it's really hitting me. You're paying this guy bajillions amounts of dollars, and you don't know if he's up for it, if he's committed. I watch him play, and I'm a big body language person, Andy. And sometimes it just doesn't feel like he wants to be there. If you're going to play that spot, winger, wherever, 10, wherever you want to be, an attacking player that's playing all that, you have to be committed. I think, honestly, TFC could go and compete and have everyone locked in without him. I would sit him. I wouldn't start him.
Interesting stuff there. Should the Whitecaps here, Wheels, be considered the big favorites on Wednesday?
Significant. Like, I'd be shocked if they don't win this. I mean, anything can happen in a cup final, but I really like this Whitecaps team. They've just got healthy at the right time. Vinny Sartini managed the team on the weekend, putting priority on winning the Canadian Championship. So players like Gauld, Adekubi didn't start. Good news is Brian White's come back since suffering that concussion. He's come back, and that happened in the Canadian Championship, came back and played in the last 2 games, scored on the weekend as well in Los Angeles. So it looks like they're just about fully fit. Kubas might be a little bit of a question mark. They're 10 points better than Toronto FC and have played 2 fewer games, and they play in a better conference. That tells you a lot. They smashed TFC 4-0 earlier in the season at BC Place. They're playing at home in front of their own fans. By the way, a really good initiative. $1 for every ticket that's sold is going to BC Soccer. Really like that initiative as well by the Whitecaps. So they're getting a lot. They're getting a lot of things right. I don't only think they should be a significant favorite ahead of this game, but looking at the Western Conference, there's the LA Galaxy, and I think the Whitecaps are right there. LAFC are on a slide right now. I think the Whitecaps can go on, win the Canadian Championship, and do some damage come playoff time as well. So look, and the cluster injuries, the defenders out for TFC, having no number 9. If Osorio's out and the Canadian content rules come into play and you need to put in someone else, that's a big loss as well. So the issues are many for Toronto FC, and the positives around the Whitecaps right now, they just jump off the page.
So let me ask you this then, because I feel like where you're going home, all the Vanni Sartini's made it clear, 3-peat, all this kind of stuff. Like, I think the spotlight is pretty much on Vancouver. However, Jordo, who do you think has the most pressure for Wednesday night's game? Would that be John Herdman or someone else, in your opinion?
As much as I want to go and say the Vancouver Whitecaps camp, meaning Vanni Sartini and company, would be under pressure, it has to be John Herdman. And I say that based on what Wheels was alluding to about the fact that Toronto FC every season goes for the jugular, goes for glory, and not making playoffs or not making a run in playoffs or not winning a championship. Because that's what TFC, for me, when I look at maybe not the past couple of years, when you think about TFC as a whole, it's about going and winning something and having a season where you're lifting it. John Herdman to come in with these brand new ideas. Keep in mind, this is a guy who was sitting and watching last season and dissecting and making sure he can build a team and move things around so they can have a winning season. If you go into a Canadian Championship final and get slapped 3-0 or whatever it might be and lose, and then don't make playoffs, that's a losing season. So you want one in the bag. You want to win. As much as I want to say Vanni Sartini going for the 3-peat, it is John Herdman. He is nervous, and because this is a big moment for him and the club. Absolutely.
There are reasons why Toronto FC are up against it, and John Herdman has tried to articulate them, and a lot of it is true, but there's no excuses. This is a cup final, so you can't rely on excuses. Everyone's had a long season. Everyone's dealt with adversity. You need to deal with what you're dealing with in that moment. And right now, if Vancouver Whitecaps somehow lose to this Toronto FC team, they need to take a look at themselves in the mirror, because I don't think heading into a Canadian Championship final against TFC, Vancouver Whitecaps will ever be in a better place than they are in this one. But again, they are significant favorites heading into this game. They should go on and win this. So I do think that comes with an element of pressure. Sartini expects his team to win. Well, you got to go and finish the job against an inferior side. So beware the wounded animal. I can't see what will trip up the Whitecaps, so they got to deliver in this game at home.
So give me a prediction, Wheels.
3-0 Whitecaps.
Okay, you're going score. Jordo, you going any other kind of prediction here?
3-1 Whitecaps. I love how we're all saying this. TFC scores 2 goals in the first 15 minutes, eh?
All right. Let's get now to our women's visa report. Sorry, my brain was just once again going to Sartini, barrel roll, shirt off. So I was going to say something cheeky, but I just couldn't spit it out. So let's get to this women's report. After scoring a midweek brace in UEFA Champions League qualifying, Evelyn Viens, a national team player for Canada, scored twice for Roma in league play as well this weekend. Guys, that gives 4 goals in 3 games in all competitions to start the season. And Jordo, we know that she's like the female equivalent of Jacob Schaffelberg, where it's like, give her the start. But a few times that Priestman had given her the start, she struggled. She was like better off the bench. But how do you make this where she is so dynamic for Roma, but then with the national team, there's a struggle there?
Yeah, I will say with the Schaffelberg reference, like there's a system that's in place for a guy who can maybe go in and take it to the match from the beginning. But Viens, I think she needs time for the game to open up a bit. Every time we watch her start, it's like there's the first 15, 20 minutes of a match where people try to get settled, where balls are coming into you and it's off the shoulder and you have to control it. And she struggles to get into the match because she doesn't have that pace going forward. I think also the time when Canada plays, it's a bit, of course, they're connecting and there's people that are making great passes and players that are finding each other, but you just need a bit of a threat going forward. And she's a threat in the box playing off of other players. I think she thrives when the game opens up naturally, 50-plus minutes, 60th minute. Both teams are either going for another goal, they're settled into the match. She comes in with her frame, her size, the way that she's able to turn players and go forward, finish with her head, finish in the box. It all suits her when the games open up. I think in the first half, when things are a bit tight and constrained, she struggles to get going.
Do you think it's incumbent then, or not incumbent, but if you're the new manager who would come on board, is she one of the players you're circling and saying to yourself, got to get more out of her?
Yeah, I think so. I think the big question with managers all the time is, do you have a system that suits the players, or do you make the players suit your system? I think with Evelyn Viens, she's kind of on that bubble, because a player like that who scores all the time for club, and like this is Roma, like she does well. And even when she scores for Canada, they're big goals and big moments. Like, do you find a way to try to piece her in? I think Bev Priestman, we all knew she had her system. She wasn't going to change that. She liked wing backs. She wasn't really going to adapt it or try something new. And Evelyn Viens was kind of sacrificed because of that.
Yeah, we'll continue to keep an eye on her, because if she can translate that to the national team, look out. That solves a lot of problems. Yeah, goals for the women's national team. All right, guys, let's get to our TonyBet top picks. UEFA Europa League begins this week. Let's look at the odds for outright winners for the TonyBet top picks. Tottenham, the favorite, at plus 446. Manchester United as the second best odds, then Roma. So where are we going here as we're looking down at these values here, Wheels?
Well, Spurs are the odds-on favorite according to the market. We know that they're not going to win because they don't win trophies. So cross Spurs off that.
That why Harry Kane left. Yeah, okay.
I love to back Manchester United, but I'm the absolute jinx. Let's go for a little bit more value. I like Galatasaray to go on and win the Europa League. Remember, just something to add, it's a new format this year. Teams will not be dropping down for the Champions League, so this is a field. So there's no surprises here. So it's a much easier market to bet. Galatasaray are off to a flyer. There's 6 wins through 6 games to start their season. They don't sign Victor Osimhen for no reason. Like, they saved him from Napoli and brought him there to lead the line. Saved. Well, the way that things worked out, they saved
rescued him.
So I like Galatasaray. I believe it's ballpark around plus 2,000, anywhere from plus 1,600 to plus 2,000. The German clubs also do really well in this competition. So I'm keeping my eye on Eintracht Frankfurt as well at plus 2,000 as well. It's actually plus 1,955 on TonyBet if you want to back Galatasaray. I think that's a big number. I think there's some really good value there. They got the best striker in the competition and a really good team around them. So they're built to win it.
All right. Jordan, you want to put in some 2 cents here?
Just my
2
team.
cents.
And I feel like you'll love this one, Andy. I don't think anyone will love my pick more than you will. Roma. I think... Why don't you like Roma?
No, it's fine, but I just like Roma.
They already fired their manager, De Rossi, maybe, perhaps.
Remember I said it. Let's remember this one.
I'll remember it. I'll remember everything you guys said here, from CPL predictions to Champ predictions to Europa League predictions. It was all said right here on One Soccer Today. That's Jordo. That's Wheels. I'm Andy. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We will see you for show on Wednesday, 9:30 p.m.